Hi folks! We are going to be looking a little bit more at the G position. I'm not just going to be playing these songs through. We've gone over them. I've sent you links. What I'm going to do is go over several songs and I'm going to point out places people have trouble. So we're looking first at page 54, Money Can't Buy Everything. I said in the written material we normally have a G position quiz on 54 or 59. We are not having that this term because we only have 9 weeks, not 10. On top of that, we have the issue with online, which we're all working to figure out. So money can't buy everything. What's new here is the sharp sign. There's a diagram at the top. You see the keyboards from F to E. This is the spot that you see at that chart on the top. A sharp. A sharp, C sharp, these are black notes. Now, if you study music long enough, on the piano, a sharp doesn't have to be a black note, but for now it is. So that's all we need to know now. For a sharp, we go to the note and then go up a half step. That's a half step. That's a half step. This is a whole step. So we go up 1/2 step to the sharp note. C up to C sharp. Now, we're not doing that now, but when we look at the final, and I did tell you in the written material, there's going to be a choice. You're going to have D sharp. D up 1/2 step. That's as close as they can be. Doesn't matter if it's black or white. Up 1/2 step, that's D sharp. Now, back to money. We've got A sharps and C sharps. That's the C sharp. Okay, this is really the best fingering. I have had people hop in different ways. If you use the fingering in the book, that will work out best for you. And in measure 3, I've seen hopping. The hopping doesn't work. Now, what does help is staying closer to the black notes. So if I start out here, I have to go back further for that black note. If I set myself up by touching the black note with the right finger, I can see where is a good place for me to start. Now, I'm sneaking out on the B because when you play back here, it gets harder. It's more crowded. For white notes, you usually stay more out here, but as you bring in a couple black notes, you have to adjust. So if we put the hands together there, common thing people do, if we look at measure 2, they keep the left hand down. But if you look at the music, you're going to see the left hand alternates a whole rest with a note full, or a measure full of notes. Left hand's resting, playing, resting. I'm pulling my hand back to demonstrate and to make a point. We don't really do that. But we come off the keys. As we go into measure, let's see, it's measure 4, 5, line 2, these are all white notes. Usually people find line 2 a little easier. If we look at the end, this is going to, for some people, cause a little confusion when you get to the end, because line 4 is very much like line 2, except for the end. Line 2, line 4. One note is different, and I'm pointing that out because that's a big thing people miss. Line 3 is exactly like line 1. So those are the main things people have trouble with. How to put your hand for the black notes, which is the black note. Some people sometimes play a wrong black note. They go too far. So there are dynamics in this. The first line has an F for forte. The third line has a P for piano. At the very end, it's loud again, forte. So you may work on that if you want, but in the context of 190, I don't really emphasize the dynamics, how loud or soft, simply because we have other priorities. And when people are having a hard time with rhythms and notes and fingering, the dynamics I don't feel are as high a priority. Okay, page 55. This is writing the sharp sign. I'm not going over this. It's self-explanatory. If you're new to this, and if you think you might go on, this is going to be useful. I just got to grab a sip of water here. We don't do anything with 56 and 57. These are exercises, and in my opinion, they're way too complicated. It's not quite the right word. They're not really appropriate for beginners, because if people do that with tension, that can really cause some discomfort in your wrist. We don't want that. Okay, so the next song I'm going to go over is page 59. Before we do that, we're going to look at the chords on the facing page. We are in the G position. This is the C position. This is the G position. The lowest note is G in both hands. The lowest note is not played with the same fingers. Thumb, pinky, or 5. What people have trouble with is that black note, that F sharp. The way I feel it's easier is my 2 finger goes back. My hand comes out for the G towards my body, and my pinky's a short finger. I have to go towards the back till I reach the black note, and I allow my 2 finger to be relaxed. What I don't do is this. I don't twist. There is a very rare exception for this. Some men with very large fingers have some issues with 1 finger touching 2 notes because, like I said, it's crowded back there. If that's you, email me and I'll tell you some workarounds. Okay, cuckoo, I have played this. I have sent you videos. Most common mistake, there's 2 most common mistakes. I'm going to tell you the easiest one to fix first. The first line must repeat. At the end of the first line, there is a repeat sign. It's the double bar, a thick line and a thin line. Each staff gets double dots. That tells you go back to the beginning and do it again. In the context of this song, that is part of the song because there are words and there's a second phrase that they didn't write the music out for because it's identical. In the very beginning, once they introduced the repeat sign, they slapped it on every song, every exercise, so you get used to seeing it and remembering what it means. And I often, in practicing and giving little exercises to practice, I wouldn't have you do them because we're practicing. Practicing is different from a performance. But in this case, if you would perform the song, you would need to do the repeat. I say that every class, every time I work on this, and every single quiz, people forget. Now, I do give them a chance to go back and do it again, but I'm just telling you that. The second thing that's common, and this is a little more challenging, it's the rhythm in the beginning. This is 3/4. There are 3 beats in each measure. If we look at the melody, there's a half note, then a quarter, half note, then a quarter. Then it changes the pattern, repeats, now what people tend to do is hold the quarter twice as long, something like this. Don't do this. This is like, no, no, no. I'm just showing you what it is that's not right. That's wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Here's right. Now that may be hard to do initially, so you slow it down. Now again, I'm giving you some written text with this video lecture, but because I'm not requiring you to do a G position quiz, if you're feeling really like backed up because you've got not just my class, but all your classes cutting a short week, a week short. So you may find that you really are backed up with papers and exams. If you are positive you're not going on, this is not that important. If you like piano, if you have time, if you're not going on, but you're comfortable, you have to stay home anyway, it's a good thing to do. The third category is people who either know they're taking 290 or think they might. It's crucial that you do these then. That's why I'm going into such detail, even though I'm not requiring you to play these as a quiz. There's actually a little fourth option because I'm allowing you can do your G position 54 or 59 as an alternative to the final. This is actually easier. It's in a different position, but what your hand does is easier. All right, so I'm going to show you something that I didn't send you a video for. Page 60 gives the right hand chords. It's the same as the left did. However, the D7 is going to feel really harder in the right hand. The reason is the thumb is short and it has to get back to the black note. A lot of people tend to want to twist. That's not really good. It's not comfortable. It's not good for your wrist. The way I do it is I keep my wrist neutral, kind of straight. I don't know how much of this is picking up in the camera. I'm going to put my hand here. This is twisted. This is a neutral position. This is twisted. Twisted's not as comfortable. All right, so I want my thumb to go back on the F sharp and my whole arm comes out without twisting. So once again, if you're not continuing, and this is hard, don't even worry about it. At the bottom of that page are exercises. And then there's a line for the left hand. I am simply going to play you the next song. We're not going to work on it. There's nothing in it but G chords and D7s. The book introduces the damper pedal at this point. I do not teach that in the classes. The reason I don't is because it's not practical to teach in a class. And also, the damper pedals on a keyboard don't work the same. And many of you probably don't even have a pedal with your keyboard. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one line two ways. Because if you kind of think you like piano and you might want to get one, I want you to hear what this does. This is no pedal. The pedal's with my foot. Now, you can't see it, but I'm going to put my right foot down on the pedal. They call it in the book the damper pedal. Sometimes it's called the sustain pedal. Sustain means it holds out. Look at this, no hands. Isn't that awesome? Just adding the pedal makes a huge difference to the sound. But that's not something that can really be taught well in a class. There's just too much nuance for that. But what this song is, it's using both hands, these newer chords, and I'm just going to play it through one time without pedal. Lines 1 and 3 are identical. 2 and 4 are not identical, and sometimes people miss that. Here we go. The book has a repeat sign there, and they tell you to repeat it 1 octave higher. You can do that if you wish, but we're not even going to focus on this. But this is going to be something that if you go on, you're going to need to do this. So I'm going to sign off with this. When we continue, I don't know if it's going to be next class or the class after, but I am going to make a video that very clearly shows you what you have to cover that we haven't really emphasized if you go on. I'm covering as much as I can realistically, but there's some things that I never even can get through in the regular class. So I will just make sure you know what you need to do to be comfortable taking the next term. Alrighty, guys, I'll see you next time.